want to see what this is. Why is the Majority Report and Jordan Peterson arguing online right now?
Jordan Peterson, he is interviewing a journalist.
Let's see. Let's skip and see what is his disturbing idea about consent to see why they're arguing on Twitter.
You know, they're going to be walking around and having their own podcasts. And God.
Here's something else that's worth pondering. You know, you talked about one of the advantages of the sexual revolution was the transformation of the idea that rape was a property crime, let's say, into a crime against the woman herself.
Wait, is that true? Wait, is that true? I'm sorry. Wait. Reel that in. Was rape historically a property crime? Like it was actually, oh dude. I mean, that, I understand like the sexist logic behind that, but that is bizarrely insane. That is crazy. Actually, I never heard that. I don't know why that's shocking me so much. Wait, are you telling me that history is pretty sexist? Oh boy, that is crazy, actually.
And I would say, look, I have plenty of sympathy for that perspective.
Lots of sympathy.
And I think it's fundamentally true, but I'm going to push back because, you know, all this is all very complicated. You know, it isn't obvious to me that offers women enough defense. You know, and so the counter argument might be if untrammeled sexual access to a young woman is a crime, in order for that to be recognized as a crime properly, it has to be viewed as something that will bring the males on her side to her defense in principle.
Has donated $54.27. Instead of ordering out Chinese food tonight, I will put the money to the greater cause. Getting that trash off my screen. Rise site chat.
Damn. And you want to know? He did the math. If you look at how much he donated $54 and like 47 cents. That's the exact amount necessary to overturn it too. That's the exact amount necessary. And with that, site chat has taken back the administrative building and pushed it back out. You know what this feels like? This feels like the Red Revolution in Germany. I don't know if you guys have done much study about it, but there were like 20 or like 50 communist revolts all across Germany, and it just kept happening. And they had to keep hiring like these anti-communist soldiers from World War I to come in and like put it down. That's what it feels like right now. That's what it feels exactly like that. Look at that. Phoenix is angry because they can no longer say slurs on screen. 200 bits from Orbit, and site chat enjoys listening to people sing off key. I don't understand what that means, but that still is offensive. Bro, you could see the hamster on the wheels in his head working overtime when he said that. Actually, can we listen to that from the start? I want to hear this again.
You know, it isn't obvious to me that offers women enough defense. You know, and so the counter argument might be if untrammeled sexual access to a young woman is a crime, in order for that to be recognized as a crime properly, it has to be viewed as something that will bring the males on her side to her defense in principle. Now, maybe not, right? Because you could say, well, maybe we can set up a...
So this is a fundamentally conservative worldview. It's not the system that needs changing. We just need to feed more into patriarchy, right? Let's not challenge that notion. In order to get women's...
Dude, can I be for real? I don't even understand what the fuck Jordan Peterson's trying to say. Can somebody like write out what he's trying? Like, I don't know if I'm stupid because I don't understand it, or if he just said it poorly, or what it is. But I heard that he was, that, you know, that rape of women used to be a property crime, but now it's seen as a crime against the woman. And then he said, but here's an alternative view, and I didn't understand it. He's saying rape would be harder if it was obvious that a woman's male relatives, husband, boyfriends would come protect her. I mean, like, I assume rape would be less common if the victim had like guards around them in any scenario. But I don't know how that's a counterance to the idea that rape is a crime against the woman and not the husband. he's saying women benefit from having men on their side during crime, processing, hence women being property is a benefit for them. But the crime isn't done to the man, the crime is done to the woman. And it is the woman's interest that should be most taken into account when they're raped. It is not the husband that a crime has been done to, even though a husband, of course, can be hurt by the fact that their loved one was raped. But you could say this with anyone, right? You could say this with anyone. Like, let's say that is murder not, then we could turn this into like murder's a property crime. Everything against everyone's a property crime because we can make everyone's protected. This is just silly. I don't understand it.
Rights and a violent crime against her respected by a legal system. Let's kind of turn the clock back and make it so that it's more of a crime against the men in her life. What if she doesn't have a men in her life? Well, I don't know. That so that she can be recognized. He shouldn't use his platform to challenge notions.
Damn, I didn't even think about this. What if you just don't even have a husband? What if you don't have a man in your life to fulfill this role?
Of patriarchy and to promote.
What about lesbians?
The idea that women in and of themselves are people who can experience crime and violent crime. Let's just make it a little bit more male focused because like he is speaking to young men. And
okay, let's skip. I want to listen to more to Jordan Peterson.
Is a crime. In order for that to be recognized as a crime properly, it has to be viewed as something that will bring the males on her side to her defense in principle. Now, maybe not, right? Because you could say, well, maybe we could set up a society where merely, quote, transgressing the rights of a woman to say no is sufficient. But it's not obvious to me that that's sufficient. Like maybe sufficient means not only do you violate the integrity of the woman in a fundamental sense, but you enrage all of her male protectors. And then that's enough of a barrier because God only knows.
Wait, but let's say, okay, what if this is a situation where you're a small, for example, this happens in a lot of really backwards areas of this country, and this is really fucked up to say, but this is also true. We just saw this, we just talked about on the channel how child marriage is still an issue in places like Missouri and other locations across this country, and they're trying to actively defend child marriage. What if you're a 14-year-old girl who has been married off without your consent to some man for whatever reason, and you get raped? Because in my mind, in my view, and I would assume most of the people watching agree with me, a 14-year-old cannot consent to having sex with an adult. That is just not a thing that can happen. That is wrong. It is screwed up. It is rape by its very nature because they cannot consent. And if something cannot consent, then it is rape. But the parents are the one who set it up, either because they live on a cult and they live in a cult or they're hardcore religious fanatics. For whatever reason, they're the ones who set up this marriage to marry off their daughter. Maybe they have the view of like, oh, you know, we're giving you this daughter because the daughter's too much of a financial burden. Any number of reasons. Since there's no quote unquote male protector in this scenario that's going to actually stop the rape, but in fact the quote unquote male protectors in the scenario were the ones who put this girl in the position to be raped systematically, what do we do then? This doesn't include lesbians or women without men in their lives or men without male protectors, because I know this is also bizarre to some people, but men can also be raped. And they deserve to be protected as well. I don't know. It feels like there's like a lot of holes in this.
How much barrier we need. And obviously, well, you just laid out a bunch of problems.
Or here's a great one. Somebody just brought up in chat. Didn't even think about this. This is from Sonatone in Gutter Chat. I can't believe a Gutter Chatter had a good recommendation. What if an uncle does something to their niece? What if the male protector is the one doing the crime?
Especially now that
No, and somebody brought up another one. Van Robbo, spousal rape. There's just like a million different scenarios here. Somnitone, I don't know how to say your name. Somnitu. You gotta, if you have a problem with it, you gotta tell me how to pronounce your name, okay? I'll just call you Bob from now on, okay?
the pill introduces, and we should stress that. The problem that women have in saying no once they're on the pill is that it's instantly personal. And that means the woman has to deliver a pretty hard blow. And that's especially problematic if she's somewhat potentially interested in the guy, right? How do I say no without hurting his feelings, alienating him, making him into an enemy, looking like a prude? And I mean, when you're 16, you don't know the answer to any of those questions. Like, you're not sophisticated enough to. And I saw this in my clinical practice all the time. You know, I had lots of women in my clinical practice who were abused serially. And, you know, they were generally stunningly unsophisticated in their conduct. And I'm not trying to blame the victim. I'm just saying that sophisticated women, and those are often those who've been.
I pause it because he won't finish his thought. He won't finish his thought here because at one point he starts to realize, like, he starts to hear what he's saying here. Now, just imagine, apply this to this notion, if you would be okay with this. Maybe we need to have people own all of the property in my home so that if someone was to steal it, there'd be enough people who are upset to make it a real violation as opposed to it being stolen from me. I mean, that's what he's saying.
It is very difficult. I look, I understand that some people get like inspiration from Jordan Peterson, right? They get told stuff like, you know, clean your room. Stuff that's like, it's like, you know, helpful to them, good for them. They've been told to clean their room, or they make their bed, or stuff that helps them in their personal lives. Maybe they've read his book, The Rules for Life, stuff like that. But when he like strays out of the territory of like life advice and like personal advice for like, you know, make your bed, it feels like his takes get worse and worse and worse. And I've already done a whole video on his takes on the war in Ukraine. And him talking about the war on wokeness and how it's tied to that. And I was just completely blown away with how silly his position on that felt like. Definitely when it's such a serious topic with people dying every day. It feels like the further he gets away from what he actually has a degree in, just the more his opinions just peter off into just rambling a lot of times. And that's what this felt like. It just felt like vaguely semi-sexist rambling. That's what this felt like. Now, okay, so let's see. Majority Report and Jordan Peterson go back and forth. Let's start from the beginning. So Majority Report tweets out this video. Jordan Peterson responds, "Here's another reason to trust me. The Majority Report thinks I'm wrong again. Majority Report FM. I was suggesting, as anyone with any sense would conclude, that female objection to unwanted sex, correct in all regards, may still have to be bolstered by male force, friends, fathers, brothers, so that sufficient protection can be obtained. What exactly is the problem here? Do you think women shouldn't be helped in their endless struggle against predators?" Okay, let's see what Sam Seder responded. "The problem, doctor, is that you said in the context of pushing back on the advantage of a woman no longer being property of a man." Then Jordan responds, "Have it your way. I said whatever you think I said. I'm pro-rape, bigoted, misogynistic, racist, whatever trope turns you on." Turns you on? "I was trying to think, though, what we might have lost as a liberal, individualist society in protecting women. Protecting them against rape. Against! Grow up, Sam Seder. It's far past time. Capiche?" And that's that. That's it. Is that the end of it? Wow. Okay, so the main thing I guess I don't get here is that if Jordan Peterson just wanted to make a point about having physical protectors to stop crimes against you, keep you safe, that's true. You know, me being in a home with multiple people means that if there was a break-in, the odds of me surviving are probably risen by the fact that there's other people who are going to fight this person off, right? If I was walking down the street and I have 3 people with me, whether it be an uncle or a friend or anyone, if someone came up to try to mug us, I think 4 of us could probably take one guy with a knife better than one person without a knife taking on one guy with a knife. Same thing is true. Same thing is true when it comes to the worst of atrocities. Rape, something that is just the most vile. I don't understand why he had to go back to the idea of women being property in order for how it used to be, rape being considered a property crime. I don't know why he had to go back to that era to make this point, unless what he was doing is pushing against the more modern idea of the law enforcement considering rape a crime against the individual instead of property. Because the property framework, and this is the way it felt like he was explaining it, the property framework seems to be better for them in his view, because now you have the person who owns you in this mindset also wanting to protect you because you're their property. But that comes with a million other social implications that are obviously terrible. I don't think I need to go into why a man owning a woman is bad, right? When it comes to a person's individual liberty and them being able to, have their own free will. But also, why does he believe this is so effective and works so well? Have rape rates drastically increased? As far as I know, rates of violent crime have been going down year after year for well over 100 years. For a while. Can we look at like rates of violent crime? Rates of violent crime. Can we see what it's over time? Okay, this is just over. This is just from 1993, but I assume this is part of a more general trend. So this is violent victimization per 1,000 Americans under ages 12 or older. So in 1993, it was 79.8, and as of 2021, it's 16.5. This is true for simple assault, aggravated assault, robbery, and rape and or sexual assault, all of which has been going down. And so if we have these statistics as a general note, if you exclude COVID, which I would say is an externality that probably shouldn't be too included in the scenario, it seems that rates of rape have been going way down since the 90s. And the reason that rates of rape have been going way down since the 90s isn't because women have been turned into property or we have the mindset that Jordan Peterson is talking about. In fact, it is due to more modern law enforcement practices, improvements in technology, making it easier to catch people when it comes to cameras being about, and ring cameras. I don't want to give too much credit to ring cameras, but security cameras and stuff like that, and a bunch of different improvements have led to these rates in violent crime going down, and it being easier for police to catch the perpetrators of these crimes and lock them away. So I don't really understand, number one, why he's one, like, signaling that we need to return to something like this or return to something vaguely familiar to this, or he thinks that this would be more effective than more modern practices trying to deal with rape and sexual assault when the main concern is the victim of the crime, not the owners of said victim, because we should also have been evolved as a society enough to be done away with owners of other human beings to begin with. So I feel that violent crime, including rape, have been going down year after year after year after year. This is a general trend that I hope continues, but I have no reason to believe we need to return to this archaic view of women, or something that's vaguely even familiar to us, archaic view of women, in order to stop rape. I feel like going back to that viewpoint, or something vaguely familiar to that viewpoint, would probably bring up more issues than solutions to problems when it comes to individual liberties and who is considered as victims to these crimes. Because like I talked about earlier, what about the scenarios where it is the family members, the male protectors, that are doing the abuse, and it is the state that needs to get involved to stop it, which happens in more instances than we would all like to imagine. Or we talk about, for example, children being married off by their families to be systematically abused, or if there's no male protectors in their life, period. If his point was just family should be there to protect you, of course I agree with that. That's an uninteresting point that everyone agrees with. And he didn't need to go back in time to like the ages of women being property to make the point, if that was his point. A lot of that sounded like rambling and it was hard to exactly communicate. And I really think his heavier weight, I'm pro-rape, bigoted, misogynistic, racist, I'm whatever turns you on. I was trying to think through what we might have lost as a liberal individual society in protecting women, protecting them against rape. Grow up, Sam Seder. It's far past time. Capiche? Just feels silly. This just feels silly. This just feels like a silly, frustrated response. I think a better response from Jordan Peterson would have been like, yeah, I probably could have used a better example. This is what I really meant. But it felt like just like High Horse McGee through the entirety of this interaction. Very strange. Very strange.